Hello everyone, welcome back to TechnoAarambh. So in this video we'll explore the use callback hook in React. We'll understand why it's useful and see a practical example demonstrating how it prevents unnecessary re-rendering of the component. So in this video I will take a same example that we seen in the previous videos in use state, use effect and use memo. So I'll take the same counter example. Normally every time the parent component renders any functions defined in the parent section, the child component will automatically render. So I'll show you how it renders a child component unnecessarily, and then we'll use the use callback hook. Then we'll understand how we can prevent the unnecessary re-rendering of the child components with the help of this use callback hook. So before we start the practical demonstration, let's understand what is use callback, why this use callback is used. So for example, we have one parent component, and in that parent component there is one child component. So if the parent component updates, then the child component will also renders at because of the parent update. So to prevent this or to solve this issue, React provides the use callback hook. It ensures that the function are only recreated when their dependencies changes to avoid unnecessary renders in the child component. So let's get started for a practical demonstration. So I have created this function, and in that function we'll just increase the count of the counter. Once we click on the increment button, it will automatically count the increment. So let's quickly go to the browser and see if we click on the increment button, it increases the count. So we'll take the same example. So just reload this one more time. Let's go to the VS Code and let's see. So in that, what I'll do, I will create one child component and will print one console in that, and we'll add one button. So once we update the parent, and then we'll check the behavior of child component, so it renders or not. So let's go to the component folder and let's create one more child component. I'll use child component.js, and I'll use the snippet to create the import. Then I'll use the const child component. Then I'll accept the props. Use this as a functional component. Then return. Let's make a div. In that div, just print one tag, p tag. In that I think we forgot to add the equal to sign. Let's enter child with child component, and then and let's create a button tag. Let's create a button and we'll add click here, and let's export this child component. Export default child component. So let's save this component and go to the parent component one more time, and let's import this child component. Let's quickly go to the browser and see if the child component is loaded on the UI or not. So child component paragraph tag is printed, and the click here button is also shown on the UI. So let's quickly go one more time on the child component. We forget to add the console.log to check the behavior. So I'll add the console.log, and in that we'll print child component rendered. So let's save this and again go to the browser. So if I click on the increment button, it will increase the count, but so at the same time child component is also getting rendered. So let's click on the increment. If you see, the child component rendered 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. So this is unnecessary because we are just updating the parent component, not for the child. So the child component is unnecessarily rendered once the parent is updating. So for that purpose, we'll use the use callback hook to avoid or to freeze the unnecessary rendering, to freeze the function. So what happens in the parent section, we are clicking on this expensive result function and it update the state, and accordingly it reload or rendered the component. So and in that component we imported this child component, so accordingly this child component is also getting loaded or rendered. So let's use the use callback hook and then we'll see how it works or how it stop the unnecessary rendering. So I'll use callback. Let's go to the browser and see how this works. So let's quickly go to the browser, reload the app, and let's click on the increment button. Now let's clear this console, and if you see, the count reach increased by 1 and the console.log is also printed. But let's click on increment button one more time. So now I'm clicking on the increment button, but the counter is not getting changed, or the console.log is also not printing. So it prevents the unnecessary rendering. But what happens? So this use callback freezes this function. So expensive result function is getting freeze. So it will not recalculating or changing the state of the component. So once we click on the increment button, so it is not increasing the count. So it is, so with the help of this use callback we have freeze this function. So in this way you can freeze or stop the unnecessary rendering using this use callback. But in that, what we have to do, we have to put the additional dependencies. Once the count is changed, then and then only we can update this child component, because we have used this expensive result inside this function. So let's quickly go to the browser and see. Let's reload the app, and if you see, once I click on the increment, now the console is also printed. Now it's only rendered the child component once the function is getting loaded. In this way you can stop the unnecessary re-rendering of your child component, so with the help of this use callback. So that's all about the use callback hook. So in this video we explored how it helps to prevent unnecessary re-rendering of child components when the parent updates. By using use callback, we can optimize our React application and improve the performance. So if you found this video very helpful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.